Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's earliest music nerd, and it is time for a little bit of a rant and a ramble about the new Bo Burnham special, Inside. I've been getting a lot of questions about it. Am I going to review it? What do I think about it? Is it even good, in my opinion? I'm going to say my thoughts on all of that and more in this video, so strap in and get ready. I thought that for this video I would show all of you the room that I often feel trapped in. For better or for worse, this is the room. And I don't know, this new Bo Burnham special, I think it's certainly interesting. It evoked a lot of strong feelings within me, and not all good, and let's get straight into exactly why. So if you guys weren't already aware, Bo Burnham, comedian, writer, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, director, he has this new special out on Netflix. A lot of people are talking about it, and it all takes place inside a single room, and he's kind of producing and shooting and creatively directing the whole thing, from what I understand. And really this whole piece orients around his feelings, his anxieties, his depression, and a myriad of thoughts that come with that all sort of manifested during the pandemic over the last year. He sort of sets the thing up at one point, talking about how he was getting over these anxiety issues, these panic attacks that he was having, and it was allowing him to consider getting back to performing. And obviously that did not happen because the pandemic occurred, but he then wanted to sort of channel that creativity into something else, and it just sort of became this special that he was doing inside during the pandemic, during lockdown, that spanned for months and months and months. It seems like, you know, in his own description of the situation, longer than he had anticipated it to last. So yeah, this whole thing takes place inside of a single room, a single guy. It's pretty much like a digital information content era take on the one-man show. And the entire performance cycles through a very creatively shot set of songs, as well as rambles and commentaries, as well as very meta moments where he's talking about the experience of doing the whole performance, or you know, what direction it's going in, or kind of explaining the reason why things look the way that they are, why there's like very aggressive cuts and transitions to, you know, the next piece, the next phase, the next passage. It's presented in a way that is very raw, very messy, very cluttered, and a little disheveled, but obviously that's essential and pretty intentional when it comes to trying to get across these feelings of, I guess, stress and imperfection and struggle and just hardship with dealing with the isolation and the depression that he was going through over this period in time. To sort of get into the key elements of the performance, I'd like to start with my favorite aspect of Inside, and that's actually the visuals. The visuals, I think, are pretty incredible. Obviously, Bo Burnham is shooting this on his own with whatever camera equipment he can get his hands on, whatever lights he can get his hands on, which I'm sure his budget, you know, was certainly there. And doing it in a single room. However, you know, it doesn't really feel that way. It feels like with each song and with each passage, we're kind of seeing the room or the place that he's shooting in a new light, in a new way, because he is approaching each song and each passage with a totally different, like, you know, visual concept or orientation, or a cool little, you know, trick, like the intro song of the whole thing, where he kind of turns a light on his head and he blasts that into a disco ball that's spinning. There's also the song where he's singing about talking to his mom over the phone on FaceTime, because he's kind of limited to interactions during this time. So, you know, he sort of sees talking to his mom in this way as necessary, and he sort of frames that whole song through, like, you know, a vertical rectangular, you know, sort of like FaceTime aspect ratio, which was a creative way of going about that. There are other songs where he's kind of engaging in weird little bits of visual or light trickery, like, holding a light behind his back and kind of flashing it, and then that kind of lights up the room for a second during certain aspects of the song, that kind of thing. I'm not going to get into every single, visual of every single track, but let it be known that I think him limiting himself in this way led to a lot of very creative choices that, really made this thing an interesting watch. You wouldn't think that a single guy in a room with some simple background elements and some lights and a camera could, make the entire thing like visually interesting and compelling, but he in fact did. From the look of it to even the emotional manipulation of it, and I don't say emotional manipulation in a bad or a negative way, there's really kind of a Kaufman-esque showmanship, a Kaufman-esque weirdo showmanship to it that I like quite a bit. Next, let's get into the songs here, which I'll go over very briefly, because that I think also has a pretty simple, straightforward approach as well. I mean, look, I think all the tracks here are pretty well produced and put together. If you've heard Bo's, previous stuff and previous music, that should be no surprise. I mean, there are some spots that are incredibly lush and dense and a little heavy instrumentally, but nothing like through the roof budget-wise or anything like that. I think it's competently put together. I think a lot of it's competently written. I think there is a lot of very smart and creative, clever commentary going on in the songs. There are a few that fell flat to me, and I was kind of taken aback by the really strong, late 90s, early 2000s Weird Al influence in a lot of the tracks, which even came out in Bo's singing a little bit more than I think it has in the past, which was fine. I mean, I'm a fan of that era as well, and I'm around in the ballpark of age that Bo is, so, I kind of know that era of Al's discography like the back of my hand, and it's very obvious that it has had an impact on him in his past works, but I feel like it came through even stronger on this one. For better or worse, it's there, and at least from, my personal perspective, it is kind of a little odd to be hearing this type of sound and timbre and almost like, an aura of a type of music of a musician that, I associate with my youth, and I associate with pure joy, being fed into this performance piece that is really all about pain and is all about stress and is all about feeling trapped, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally. That's kind of bringing me to my next passage of this whole thing. And that's really kind of coming down to the emotions of it. I mean, look, I know I'm kind of running into a wall here where that's kind of the point, Anthony, but I did not feel good watching this. This is not a feel-good special. This is not a feel-great special. And I know in a breath it's comedy, and I know in another breath it's supposed to be entertainment. And I know that people are kind of going crazy for it, probably because they relate to a lot of the feelings expressed in it. I know I certainly do. But, I really need to, I guess, take a bit of a breather from this and thinking about it before I go back and maybe watch it again. And I would like to watch it again because there was a lot going on. And, there are certainly aspects of it that I think maybe I missed, or maybe even would grow on me when I listen to it again or watch it again, I mean. But I don't really feel like I'm ready to, because I just found the whole thing really depressing. And after I was done with it, I just felt really down on myself because, again, a lot of the feelings that were expressed during it, I personally felt like I was going through over the past year. And to be honest, when it comes to 2020, I haven't even really processed that shit. So, the special really did kick a lot of that back up for me. And that's a testament to the power of the special, in my opinion.
I would also like to address some of the conversations I've been seeing people have about this special, specifically in regards to its social and political themes, how radical or not radical they are, how woke or not woke they are. I don't think Bo is saying anything in this special that other people haven't been saying for years, nor do I think it's the point to be. the most groundbreaking voice in the room. I think this is merely just an extension of him expressing his despair and unhappiness over the last year because, like many people, I think he's personally had a reckoning with the social and economic inequality of this country, and not that it's new and not that it's a phenomenon that everybody is just getting hip to. It's just really been like laid bare, just really been laid naked over the past year in a way where it's kind of like worse than it's ever been, at least in my lifetime. So yeah, while Inside isn't necessarily the most profound performance when it comes to social and political issues, simultaneously, I don't think it needs to be torn down for falling short of anything on that spectrum either, because at the end of the day, it's going to fall short by design.
Bo, as much as he'd like to highlight them, it's pretty clear that, as just a straight white guy who, is sort of built into, the privileged part of the system, he understands that, there's only so much that he can contribute, or only, so much influence that he should wield in this whole thing.
So ultimately, those are my thoughts on the Bo Burnham special. If you have thoughts, feel free to throw them down in the comments. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Bo Burnham, Inside, forever.